Hey, hello everyone. This is Mark Ernstman of ChorusWorks. Thank you for joining us today for our webcast on managing your unmanaged business processes. I'm joined today by Art Gelwicks. Art is a solutions consultant with ChorusWorks, and in that role, Art is responsible for working with our customers, prospects, partners to identify how they might be better able to use ChorusWorks and leverage ChorusWorks to manage their business processes, to manage their daily work, to do a lot of those things on SharePoint that they're looking and need to do. So welcome, Art. Thank you for joining us today. So let's just a quick review of what we'll do. I'll go through a little bit of light housekeeping, then we can check that first bullet off. For those of you who are using the GoToWebinar interface for the first time, there is a toggle or a drop-down, whatever you'd like to call it, up in the left-hand corner of your screen. You can use that to manipulate the screen size of the presentation, and that way you can ensure that you see all the good stuff. So go ahead, you can take advantage of that. Also, there is a question panel that you can use throughout the course of the webcast. If you have questions that come up while I'm presenting or while Art is presenting, you can just punch your question in right there. I will be managing those on this side, so some we may answer throughout the course of the webcast. Others we may hold for the end, where we'll allow the entire group to benefit from those questions and answers. So again, anytime during the broadcast, you can go ahead and type in those questions, and we'll answer them as we go. All right, we can knock out that bullet. To get us started, I'm going to do a quick ChorusWorks overview. It'll serve as a nice refresher for those of you who are familiar with us. For those of you who aren't, it'll give you some sense and concept of what we do, what our business is, and what the value is that we provide. Once I go through that, that's maybe 7 to 10 minutes. I'm going to turn it over to Art, and Art is going to take us through the majority of the presentation, which will be all demonstration. And Art will be demonstrating how you can leverage ChorusWorks on SharePoint to manage your unmanaged business processes. So that'll take maybe a half hour or so, and then we'll be able to get to the questions. We should have some time at the end, and we'll hit those questions and wrap things up. So I expect we'll be here the better part of an hour, but certainly not longer than that. So we've had a lot of our customers and prospects liken their work situation to herding cats. And that's why we've included that graphic in the, the little phrase down there at the bottom of the slide. And the analogy is a good one. Everybody is familiar with cats and their personalities, right? They're very independent. They like to be on their own. They do their own thing. You never know where to find them, et cetera, et cetera. And when you try to get them together, or maybe add some structure, get your arms around them, kind of corral them together and get them all going in the same direction, good luck with that, right? So I guess people's work feels like that sometimes too. There's a lot of different independent parts and pieces, all doing their own thing. They're interdependent. There's no structure. It's difficult to find things. And when you do try to add some structure or organization or get your arms around things, it's like those cats. Good luck. Pretty much unmanageable. So the analogy fits. Trying to manage your work and business processes in a lot of cases is just like trying to herd a bunch of cats. But I'm a dog guy. And I've got 3 pugs at home. And they are very different than cats. I mean, you can tell just by looking at them there on the slide that they're very different. They're centralized. They're together. They're dependent on each other. I typically know where to find them. I can pet them all at the same time. I really don't need to herd my pugs, right? I've got them under control. They're very manageable. They're right there as a group. I see them. I can pet them. I can work with them. They are pretty manageable. So I guess that's what we're going to be presenting to you throughout the course of the next half hour is going from herding cats to a grumble of pugs. And yes, grumble of pugs is the accepted terminology for a group of pugs, right? This is a thing my son learns at college. Comes home last week and he says, hey, Dad, guess what? We have a grumble of pugs. So that's what we're doing, from herding cats to a grumble of pugs. All right, but before we get into that, let's go through a little bit of a ChorusWorks overview, a ChorusWorks refresher. So we just recently celebrated our 10th anniversary as a business back in February of this year. So we kicked up in 2003, and we got started when SharePoint 2003 was in beta. So we have been evolving with SharePoint, evolving as a business from 2003 to 2007 to SharePoint 2010, and now to SharePoint 2013. So we're in the formative stages of putting together our next wave of products, solutions, strategy around SharePoint 2013. And just so you know, you'll probably be hearing from us. We have a program that will be ongoing over the next several weeks. A little bit of education on 2013, some direction, a roadmap of where we're going. So we're going to be curious to hear how all of you are thinking about and planning around SharePoint 2013 as well. But what we've been doing for those last 10 years is basically driving value with collaborative work management solutions. It's those type of things that you do every day. It's not necessarily an ERP or a formal CRM, but it's those work activities that we all deal with, that every company deals with on a daily basis. Some may be formal solutions, other may be managing your work, managing people, managing tasks. But that's where we've been adding value, is trying to structure and help you organize, standardize, centralize those types of activities with collaborative work management solutions. And we've been doing that primarily with 3 products that have evolved over the years. The primary product is our ChorusWorks software platform, and it is the basis for everything that we do. Along the way, we have seen that there are certain solutions that have a lot of adoption and a lot of traction within that SharePoint crowd. We actually built some products on top of the platform to address those areas. One is project and portfolio management. It seems to be a sweet spot for SharePoint, so we put a formal product in place to address that. Another one is idea and innovation management, that whole collaborative activity of working together, sharing ideas, commenting and such. This is another hot area for SharePoint, so we went ahead and formalized the solution on top of that. But really our platform is the driver of everything that we do for our customers. A lot of customers that we've collected over the last 10 years, I'll talk more about those on the next slide. And as you may expect, having been devoted and dedicated to SharePoint for the past 10 years, we're very tight with Microsoft. We are a Microsoft Gold Certified Partner, a managed independent software vendor. That's what ISV stands for. And we're on a lot of technical and business type committees as well, providing advice and giving feedback to Microsoft. And outside of Microsoft, we were actually identified as a cool vendor by the analyst firm Gartner in the ECM space. So that was a nice award, a nice attention that we received from Gartner. Just take a quick look at the customer base. See a lot of different logos there. What you'll see is they're somewhat grouped. We're very strong in the federal market, that lower left-hand corner. Do a lot of work within DoD and the Intel agency, some civilian work as well. We're also very strong in the federal contractor space, those industries that provide support to the federal government, whether it's weapon systems, IT, missiles, space, technology, whatever the case. Very strong representation within that core. And also within manufacturing, whether it's consumer products, technology, whatever the case. We have a lot of manufacturing firms that we work with as well. But that's just a sample of some of the customers that we've worked with over the last 10 years. So let's just talk about why these customers have selected ChorusWorks. And really, when you think about the customer base, there's a lot of prevailing themes that come out in the solutions that we've delivered for them. First and foremost, we're helping them standardize a lot of the things that they do. Standardizing within the entire corporation, standardizing within departments, across teams. You know, it's just dependent on who we're working on, but standardizing the way they work. Could be how they work on projects, how they manage expense reports, how they work with you know, a proposal or contract situation. But that's one of the key themes, is that we're standardizing and putting systems in place that they can use across the organization. And centralizing those activities as well, centralizing them within a managed environment. And in our case, that managed environment would be SharePoint with CourseWorks blended into it. So not only standardizing, but putting all of them in a centralized location where people can access them. They can access them whether they're in the office, whether they're in a satellite facility, at home, just really anywhere they can access SharePoint, anywhere they can access that internet, they can get to those processes, applications, solutions. And then a key piece of what we've done as well is streamline. A great example of streamlining is some work that we've done for the United States Marine Corps. They had a process for requesting material in the field. It used to be a paper-based process that took up to 6 to 9 months with all the paper being submitted, the pushing the paper, the emails, the reviews, the approvals, so on and so forth. We basically took and built them a nice, tight system on SharePoint that has cut that 6 to 9 month cycle down to 30 days in some cases, just because it's standardized and it's centralized and it's accessible. Everything is done online right there in front of you. So streamlining, managing business processes is a big piece and a huge prevailing theme across our customer base. And that's what we're going to get into a little bit today. Just a couple other quick points about CourseWorks. So we've heard back from several customers and through our implementations that we're able to complete their projects in 1/5 the time and at half the cost. And this is because of the software that we use, the CourseWorks software. It's basically presenting another option as opposed to the two that we're most familiar with. There's either the build or the buy, right? So if you build it, it takes a long time. There's a lot of risk involved, a lot of time. So what we're doing is we take less time, less risk, and more cost effective than that custom development. At the same time, we're more flexible, extensible, and customizable than your off-the-shelf products. A lot of those, you take them, you install them, and you're forced to work the way those applications are built, to work the way they work, instead of mapping to the way that you work. So we view CourseWorks as that third alternative option, really the best of both worlds. Gives you, the flexibility, the extensibility of the custom solutions, and the less time, the less risk, the more cost-effective nature of the others. And then finally, what we think is really one of the key values of CourseWorks is that one platform, many solutions. So we may come in initially and work with you to manage or centralize or standardize a specific business process or a specific activity. But once you have CourseWorks in place, you can then use that for other processes, other projects, other activities that you may be doing within the organization. So it's one platform, many solutions. It doesn't stop with just the one that we come in initially for or the one that you choose to address first. Once it's there, it's available and it's accessible, and you can apply it to any of those activities or things that you may do within the organization. So that's really just kind of a quick and dirty of who we are, what we do, a little bit about the value. I think as we transition over to Art, you're going to start seeing a little bit more and understanding a little bit better the value that we provide. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make Art the presenter, and then he can take it away and take you through his demonstration. Art?
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. What I'm going to do is, as I share my screen out here, is I'm going to take you through a day in the life when it comes to managing unmanaged work, dealing with ideas and concepts that have come up as part of that process, and also dealing with larger scale managed activities. And the reason of looking at it from this perspective is this is really the microcosm that so many of us live within. We have our own activities that we need to keep track of. We have our coworkers that we need to interact with. But we also need to be able to take things and move them up into decision-making structures in our organizations, and also then turn those decisions into something executable. The key with this type of solution structure that I'm going to show you is that this entire mechanism is based on only two CourseWorks solutions: our project portfolio management solution and our idea management solution. Because of the flexible nature of those designs and the underlying solution platform, I'm able to very easily go through and tune the environment to match the types of work that I need to do. Now when I say tune, literally I have not changed anything in these environments that a normal end user could not be taught how to change. It can be done literally in a matter of a couple of hours. You can learn exactly how to make any modifications you need to get to this type of structure, and you can use a templatized model. So to use the whole day in the life approach, we're going to look at this as I am the team leader for a group of solution consultants. Now we've got several different projects going on. Everybody has their own activities that they have to keep track of, and just as a member of the team, I have my own activities as well. And what you're seeing on the screen is my personal task tracker. All of the little to-do items, the things that come across my desk, the things that come in from email, I capture into this environment, and it gives me an opportunity to keep a visual representation of what I need to do and how I need to do it. So just before I got on the call, I got an email that I need to schedule a wrap-up meeting after a particular presentation. So rather than losing track of that, let's go ahead and capture that right now. Now that'll be coming up. It's not really a high priority item, but I do need to take care of that tomorrow. So we'll make sure that that gets done on tomorrow's schedule. Go ahead and save that item, and now you'll see that I have a task created for scheduling that wrap-up meeting. Now, I can just basically move on to the next thing that I need to do, which is to compile the weekly summary report. Excuse me. So how do I indicate that I'm doing that? Well, I'm just going to take that and move that over to the in progress area. I'm going to start that today, and I'm not sure when I'm actually going to finish it, but I've already put in a couple of hours of work on it, so let's go ahead and log that as well. The real benefit of what you're starting to see here, one, is a very intuitive interface for me to be able to go in and interact with the tasks that I have on a regular daily basis. But as we carry forward through this solution model, you're going to see that information can be shared. And when you think about that whole instance of what are people doing in non-managed work, sharing that information becomes the biggest liability. Pretty much everyone on this call at one point or a time has had that situation where they have had someone come to them and said, what are you working on? Now if it's a project, that's usually fairly easy to report because you have a structured collection of things that you're supposed to be doing. But it's that other set of work that you're doing to be able to share that information constantly and consistently without having to have an entirely separate mechanism to do that. Being able to do that, we now have a much more streamlined process. Now, one of the things that would be helpful, I'm working on this, compiling the weekly summary, but I have a couple other things in flight, and it'd be nice to get them off my plate. So let's take a look and see which ones I've made some progress on. So I'm going to pull up the progress bar, and I can see that submitting the expenses, I've done some of the work, but you know what, I really probably should finish that off. So let's take a look at the details. I can see here that I haven't even logged any of my time on that yet. That's not a good thing. I need to go in and fix that. So I'm going to go in and submit my expenses, which I already did in another system. That system's also constructed using CourseWorks. It's just a separate work-based management system. But I started that yesterday, and I finished it today, and it only took me an hour. Yes, it takes me a long time to do my expenses. And I'm going to mark it as 100% and just say save. Now the key is that I have finished that information, so I'm just going to grab this and move this over to completed. Now the system would automatically update that as well if I refreshed the page, but it's just as easy for me to drag things around. Now I'm also going to hold off on my weekly review with Dan because I know he has something coming up. So we're going to move that over to the deferred column as well. Save that, and we're able to keep moving forward. So you can see I have a lot of activities going on for myself as an individual, and these are all stored within this site, and that's an important key thing to understand here. What I am dealing with is actually my own SharePoint site. I have an opportunity within this structure to actually store documents in here or do whatever else I would normally do within the SharePoint environment within this encapsulated point. But I also have a team that I'm working with, and because I'm responsible for the team, I need to know what they're doing as well, and this is where we deal with data aggregation. ChorusWorks has, for the past 10 years, really pioneered the concepts of data roll-up and visual roll-up of information in SharePoint. So when I think about my solution consulting team, I can go in and within the PPM solution, Project Portfolio Management, I can leverage its ability to roll information together and see what the rest of my team is working on. So Kim White has some activities going on and Joe Black has some activities. I can mouse over and look at details, or if I want very specific details, all I need to do is click and dive down into their environment. And you'll see again, they have a common environment. So these are the things right now, if I tell it to show all the tasks that Kim's working on. And any updates, if I want to look at the details and see what's going on with those, or what I find most useful is take a look at the progress. I can get a real sense as to what Kim's working on and how things are moving forward. Now, while I'm going through my daily activities and I'm executing on different tasks, often ideas will come. You look at something such as testing and working on a new design interface. While I'm working on this particular task, the thought occurs to me that it would be very nice to have a solution to be able to capture all the design changes about the interface. Right now what we're doing is we're sending them around in emails and discussing them and things like that. And it works, but it's not necessarily efficient or long-term practical. So what I need to do is I need to share with the powers that be, I have an idea, and we want to be able to act on that idea. So instead of sending out an email about an idea, I'm actually going to use a ChorusWorks solution called Idea Management. Now, this is something that we've deployed company-wide because we recognize that idea and innovation is something that's very valuable to us as an organization. So I'm going to go to the company idea portal, and you'll notice when I go to that, it can be isolated, it can be secured, and it can be segmented not only physically but visually from other environments. This particular one, because it's been set up for our enterprise, we tuned it to match the enterprise branding, which you can do with any ChorusWorks solution. Part of our professional services team is very good at working with you to coordinate and make visuals match with your existing intranets and extranets. But this is a process improvement that I've thought of. So I need to categorize that and capture that in the right spot. And sure enough, we have a community already created for process improvement. Now these communities are defined by us. When I say us, I mean us, the users of the solution. So whatever your company does, whatever your organization does, you can set up your own communities and challenges and idea capture areas to match those things that are going to be most relevant for you. So I'm going to go into process improvements and capture this idea about a new design capture tool. Well, the first step is to actually log that into the system. So I'm going to quickly just capture this idea for the rest of the teams to be able to see it and interact with it. Now it's important to understand that idea capture using ChorusWorks solutions is again focused around SharePoint, but it also focuses around data organization. Instead of the classic black box, throw all the ideas in and somebody has to rifle through them, we give you the ability to create structure around those ideas. So when we're thinking about things such as cross-functional capabilities, design, change, management tool, and I think it's a very important idea, and I think it's very time sensitive, and I think it would improve our experience, and it would also improve the quality of our process. Now, I didn't provide a lot of detail because I'm still thinking this idea out, but I submit it into the system. And what happens now is this idea is now open for people to look at and interact with. It's an important concept to think about when you take CourseWorks solution concepts and you start to wrap them around your own business solutions. When we think about functions such as sharing ideas, classic models put them into, as I said before, black boxes. Well, here, our types of solutions really publicize them into the environment to whatever audience is going to be most receptive to interacting with that idea. In this case, it could be the product innovation team. It could also be anyone in the organization. You have definition control over that. Now, personally, I think it's an excellent idea, so I'm going to give it a 5-star rating. But anyone who comes through can vary the rating. They can also go in and look at the idea details and supply their own comments back on it, attaching to it additional information and attaching to it even reviews based around specific criteria. So just for the sake of argument, I'm going to attach a comment to this, and we'll stack that in with the discussion. That way anyone who comes through will be able to see this. We could attach in additional documents or screenshots if we wanted to. And providing that middle ground between open comment and star rating, we're able to define specific criteria around being able to manage what we think this particular idea comes into play. Now, I'm going to stop for a second because I want you to think about flexibility of solution. And here's what I mean. This solution that I've been showing you so far has been focused around idea management. However, we have taken this exact same solution and turned it into implementations for change management, for RFP processing, for IDIQ processing and stage gate management structures. These types of solutions can all be powered by this same structure. It's all a matter of the creative application of the core technologies that CourseWorks has. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you look at this front-end piece that I've shown you here around the idea capture, that's only half of the equation. Because when we think about managing unmanaged business processes, really what it comes down to is turning processes that have a structure into something that can be executed. So to be able to utilize technologies and tools such as CourseWorks, to be able to build those types of structures, to be able to handle the stage gates that you're going to move things through, really gives you that opportunity to start to manage those unmanaged processes. For example, here, I'm going to go in and take a look at the process community. Within this environment, I'm able to see now that I have stages that I'm able to take these ideas that have come in. So this idea that I submitted earlier in this public-facing open interface can now also be handled through the same technology, same structures in the background by the core team who needs to do something with this idea. So far we've taken an idea that I came up with during my regular to-do activities during the course of the day, submitted it into this core group, and now I can use these kinds of structured processes that can be defined directly into the solution to take an idea and move it from stage to stage. In this case, I could add additional information to it, and I'm going to go ahead and just move it on to the review stage, which will take it out of one section and move it to the next. So if you take the definition of what you're seeing here and translate it into your own business processes, now you're able to take items, let's say a change request that needs to be routed through multiple approvals, or an HR onboarding process that needs to go through several different groups and have different activities triggered and different tasks triggered. All of those structures can be defined within the solution structure of CourseWorks. And individual groups can get their own views on what they need to interact with. So for the sake of our purposes today, we're going to go ahead and take ideas that have gone all the way through this cycle, and we're going to say we're going to act on one of those. But what do you do with it then? Well, many organizations will take these new ideas and just send them off, send them to a group to go ahead and trigger, go ahead and do something with it. But with ChorusWorks, again, because we're talking about the power of the underlying platform, we have the capability to take this information and hand it off to other ChorusWorks solutions. In this case, what we would be doing is we would be taking an approved project, make the decision, and then notify the project management office that we're going to begin on this project. We want to kick this one off. Well, that becomes a whole different conversation, because now we've transferred information from one group, this being the idea group, to the project group. Now, as part of this whole cycle, me being the creator of the idea, I'd like to know what's going on. And part of ChorusWorks' capability is to close that informational loop, to constantly be feeding information back to all the parties that are involved in this process so that they know what's going on without having to spend their time tracking down that information. So when we start to then look at what's going on, what are the projects that are out there in flight, I'm still working from my personal task tracker. I'm working from my space, and I've submitted my idea into the portal. But now there's projects out there. There's other projects going on. My team is working on some of those. My idea is off doing its own thing. It's running through its cycles, but I still have project work to do. So again, we're using the same two solutions, PPM and SIM, but here I'm going to take a look at a portfolio of approved projects that my team is working on currently. Right now we've got two major ones going on. We've got a building project where we're actually erecting a new building on the far side of campus, and we've got a facility redesign at one of our other locations. This is pure project management that we're looking at here. I not only have the aggregations of the various project plans, being able to see them and manage them right through the project management site, but also share that information with the team. So I have all of my details, and I have the things that people have been assigned to work on. So for example, I'm going to go through and pick up responsibility for a couple of items here. Let's go through and assign these first couple to me. Oops, gotta watch where I'm clicking. Now why would I worry about doing this right now? Well, we've got a consistency capability within ChorusWorks that makes things easy to deal with. Instead of being a part of the project team who has to bounce in and out of the project plan, who has to go through and find the right place to put data in and to update information, we're able to use consistent interface structures to the point of providing the same types of interfaces that we've had in other opportunities. You remember earlier my looking at my personal task board. Well, this is my task board on this particular project, and it has the items that I have been assigned to. So I'm able to go through and say, you know what, I'm going to get started on these shop drawings. Going ahead and starting on that, I'm starting on it today, or actually I'll start on it tomorrow. That information is fed, in this case, back to the project manager. Now this is no different in mechanism than what I was doing for my own personal activity. And my own personal activity was being fed to the portfolio of everything that my team is doing. So that composite of being able to have unmanaged work, literally non-project work, being tracked using the same solution structure that our full project management site structure is tracking, makes it very easy for me to get users up to speed and comfortable with the environment. They're able to go in and see what's going on with the project, see the dashboards, take a look at the scheduling views. All of this organizational structure is provided. But you'll notice a lot of the overhead is not there. I keep saying that these are the same site structures. This is the same functionality. But if we look at this project site, there's a lot of capabilities here. Project views, task views, tracking, document libraries, meeting catalogs. But if I look at my personal task board, I've got different functionality, and that goes back to the flexibility of the coursework solution. The ability to use the environment itself and redefine the actual navigation and capability that's being shown in each site to match the needs of that site. So now I've got a real core problem. I have non-project work being tracked very efficiently, very effectively. I have the ability to see everything that's going on for my team, all of their non-project work. And I also have another portfolio where I'm able to see all the projects that we're working on, all of the approved projects out here. But those are two different places. Do I really need to have two different places? Well, the answer is no. Because, again, we're looking at the underpinning environment of the coursework solution platform driving all of this capability. It is a simple matter for me to go in and have a portfolio that shows me not only all of the project work that's going on, but at the same time, the non-project work that's going on in the same displays. So I'm able to go into here and see, here's my project schedules, here's the non-project work, and I can see what the overlap is. When we deal with project management structure, when we deal with idea management structure, when we deal with non-project work and managing those unmanaged business processes, it really becomes a core to think about what are the steps you need to engage and how do you move through that life cycle. Whether it's the life cycle I've just shown you here of going through on a daily basis and taking care of my own activities and my team activities, whether it's an organized process structure where we take this same style of mechanism and route things through a clearly defined stage gate process, such as what I did in idea management, or using a whole complex project site structure to manage projects of weeks to years in scale and capability, I'm still using the entire CourseWorks ecosystem of capability. And I have the ability to adapt it and adjust it as need be. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here and I'm going to kick this back over to Mark and open it up for any questions or anything that anyone would like to know on the call.
All right, thank you, Art. Thanks for going through that. Let's see, did you make me a presenter?
I am in the process of it right now.
All right.
There you go.
Excellent. Let me get my deck back up here. All right. Thank you, Art. Thank you for taking us through that. I did have some questions come in during the course of your presentation, so we'll get to those in just a second. I just wanted to do a quick wrap-up and talk about next steps. So we will be back in touch, certainly regarding the webcast, to get your thoughts and see if there's any activity we might be able to undertake with you. But you could also reach out and contact us. A couple different ways you can reach out: telephone, email. You can always visit www.courseworks.net for more information on any of the products, a variety of solutions that we have posted there. We also have other recorded webcasts and such for your viewing pleasure. I always get the question, a couple questions, is did we record the webcast? So the answer to that is yes. We did record the webcast. So if you registered and are in attendance, you will automatically get a link to the recording, so you can share that with colleagues, friends, family, whomever. Or if you would like to, you can send an email to me. Just reply to one of the invites that you got from us, and I will make sure that you get a link to that recording. I also can make a copy of the deck available if you would be interested in having a copy of that. I also have about 1,000 more pictures of the pugs, if you would be interested in seeing any more of those. ranging from them being dressed up in Christmas costumes to tutus, you name it, we got it. So if you have any need for any of those, you can shoot me an email or email sales@courseworks.net. All right, Art, are you ready to address a couple questions with me?
Fire when ready.
Let's do it. So I had a couple questions come in regarding the ease of use of CourseWorks and how one might go about managing some of the features or components. Can you just hit on the ease of use or the simplicity versus the complexity of the product?
Sure. When you're taking a look at some of the basic pieces that we walked through, such as the project portfolio management environment, a lot of the definition control within that is done either through what we refer to as the feature designer, which gives you navigational interface control, or you utilize what we refer to as the basic components within CourseWorks. Basic components are configurable components that are wizard-driven. They give you a very simplified, streamlined interface to walk through and define what data you're going to connect to, what are you going to show, how are you going to show it, and then be able to go through and define what we refer to are actions, ways to act upon that data. That also is wizard-driven. The most complex thing you will run into in CourseWorks at any time is XML, because our advanced components, which are the other side of the equation, are configured using XML for greater flexibility and capability. But at no time do you ever run into developmental needs such as .NET, Visual Studio, or anything along that line, not even SharePoint Designer, to be honest with you.
All right, excellent. So another one, Art, kind of along those same lines, asking about the customizability of some of the things you were showing. For example, you know, the forms that we included, some of the drop-down menus that you were selecting from. Talk a little bit about how we can customize those types of things.
Sure. The drop-down menus, just to touch on those very quickly, are in most cases, I'll say about 90% of the cases, they're referring to standard SharePoint choice and lookup lists. So you're typically just updating the data in those lists, and whatever's in those lists are being reflected in the drop-downs. It's a rare occasion where you'll actually go through and hard code a drop-down list using XML configuration in the advanced components. So changing the population of that content is a very simple data exercise. The other structures that you're looking at being able to change, for example, the forms. Simplified forms using our actions are actually defined in the wizard. You just designate which columns from the SharePoint list source that you're going to want to show in the form. You define the order of the fields and also any other specific parameters about those fields. Do you want them to be read-only? Do you want them to provide data ahead of time or allow the user to override that? If you decide to use complex forms, using what we refer to as our business data form adapter, that's configured using XML. That has complete flexibility over how those forms work through definition, even to the point of allowing you to go through and create stacked dynamic intelligent forms so that as you select particular pieces of data, additional fields appear and disappear based on the requirements of that primary data. All of that can be defined within the form XML configuration, and you can even go so far as to inject HTML and CSS code into the beginning of that to specifically design how you want a form to look. It does not require using things such as InfoPath or BCS to create that data interface back and forth. That's all done through the CourseWorks solution platform. Excellent.
All right, Art, talk a little bit about, there's quite a few questions about the task management that you demonstrated early on in your demo. So a couple questions about how the tasks are created. Do users do that? Do others create tasks and assign them? Just walk a little bit through that process.
Sure. What that is the task board interface is designed to be a user experience interface layered on top of the task listing in a project management site. So in this case, we have the ability through the task board to either create tasks there, which you saw me do at the beginning of the demonstration where I added a new task in, or tasks can be created in the schedule section of the project site or the task import section of the project site. So they can be created in several different places and then populate up into that board. If I'm using it for my own personal uses, the schedule and the task import functionality is probably more than what I need. So I can actually suppress that and do all my task creation and editing right through the task board. If I'm working with this as part of a project, then what I really want to be able to do as the project manager is to be able to put the tasks in and then have people interact with those tasks. But they really don't need to create them. They should be able to submit a task if they found a new item, and then I, as the project manager, can reorganize it in the background using the scheduling planner. But being able to put those tasks in from a project standpoint, I would use the schedule to go through and set up all the tasks that I need, and when I assign them to individuals, they will automatically show up on that individual's task board.
Excellent. And Art, another point on that is if you give the users or whoever the task is assigned to the ability to modify that task, you can select the fields that you want them to modify. In other words, if there are certain fields that you don't want them to mess with, you can lock those down, correct?
Correct. All of native SharePoint security capabilities are respected by CourseWorks Solutions and the Solution Platform.
Excellent. So while we're on that topic, Art, hit a little bit on the integration with Microsoft Project.
We do have the capability to integrate with Microsoft Project. You have the ability to import a project plan as an XML file from Microsoft Project into the scheduler. Once it's in the scheduler, you manage the project there, and if at some point you want to export that information back out to Microsoft Project, you can do that as well.
Excellent. All right, so let's see. I've got one more. A couple have come in regarding the SharePoint versions and what versions are we compatible with, what versions do we run on. I would say right now we probably have customers on all versions of SharePoint, so the majority of what you see will work on 2007, 2010, the full versions, the full license version, the free versions like Windows Foundation, so on and so forth. Art, can you hit on just briefly what the differences might be if you were working on 2007 versus 2010, for example?
Yes, our solution platform, the underlying architecture that drives all of this, will work on 2007, 2010, and 2013 in all its various flavors within the SharePoint spectrum. The configured solutions of project portfolio management and idea management require SharePoint 2010 or later, specifically because they use a core architecture that we've designed called CAPS for improved data performance interacting with SharePoint. If you have SharePoint 2007, there are earlier versions of our software that we could probably work with, but one of the things we do encourage people to do is look at their timeline of moving forward to 2010. And if that's something that they want assistance with, our professional services team can actually assist them in making that step forward to the 2010 environment so that then they're able to take advantage of the new capabilities of CAPS and 2010 itself.
Excellent. All right, we got one final question here, Art. Talk about the integration capabilities with other third-party software packages and how we're able to work with those.
That's a great question. I get that a lot. How do we deal with data that doesn't live in SharePoint? And that's one of the core capabilities of our solution platform. It's what we call the external data connector. And it gives us the ability to reach out to outside data sources, connecting through their provided interface, whether it's a web service, SQL, Oracle. There's about 30 different types of things we connect to. Query data back based on the defined query structure and pull that data back to SharePoint to work with it at the SharePoint user interface level. We don't load that data into SharePoint unless we specifically have been asked to do so. So I'll give you a practical example around that. If you're looking at, say, a system such as SAP and you wanted to query SAP for information to display it amongst other SharePoint originating information in a dashboard style structure, the CourseWorks Solution Platform gives you that capability. Our professional services team would work with you to define that interface structure and connection that first time so you can actually see that data come back and then be able to work with it. I can even go so far as to say that depending on the originating data source and concurrent on their permissions and what they grant, you even have the ability to update that original data source if you would want to do so.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Art. All right, we'll call it a wrap with that. Art, again, thank you for the demonstration and thank you for handling all those questions. I appreciate that. And for everyone who is on the line, thank you also for attending. We know you have a lot of competing priorities throughout your day, and we're very appreciative that you chose to spend the last 50 or so minutes with us. I appreciate all the questions. I know there were some that we didn't get to. If you asked a question and we did not get to that, we'll be back in touch, or you can certainly reach out to us if you just can't wait. But anyway, again, thank you very much. We appreciate the time, and we'll be in touch soon. Have a great day, everyone.